Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Italy Travel Podcast. I'm Nathaniel Mellor.
And I'm Darcy Melton.
And today we are continuing to talk about Ischia, the beautiful, lovely, incredibly large island off the coast of Naples. Large, obviously, in comparison to Procida and Capri, not in comparison to Sardinia. What a crazy intro it's already been.
That was great, though.
Thank you.
Took a little geographical journey in my mind.
Y'all are welcome. I didn't even include Corsica, and I apologize, Corsica. Sicily doesn't count, and it's nowhere near the rest of them.
Yeah, it's way on down there, and it's really big.
And it does not ever get confused for Ischia, I don't think.
Yes.
At least not anymore. Maybe once upon a time. With that said, I just want to say thank you all for leaving comments and reviews and following along. If you'd like to follow us to keep up with these beautiful podcast episodes, that sounds a little braggadocio, and I apologize, but I'm really proud of them. Hopefully you are too. And you could do so. Click the follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We also have a Patreon. If you want to join our Patreon, there's a number of tiers, including a free one. They all get you access to our fun chat. I think it's fun. It's just a chat, but it's a group chat, and you can all chime in and share experiences, such as if you've ever been to Capri or Ischia or anything like that, and you just want to let people know about your experience, you can do so on our Patreon. That link is also in the description. Last but not least, we have a website, onlyabag.com, where we have tons of articles, not really on Ischia actually, but on other places and on travel tips and on things like trains. So if you need to know just general loose Italian knowledge and Italian information, you can do so on our website. You can find it all, onlyabag.com. Thank you all seriously so much for listening and your continued support. We appreciate it.
We appreciate you all so much.
So let us talk about Ischia. I was going to say Capri and I completely forgot what day it was. Not that that changes anything. It just it all went out of my head. Let's talk about Ischia.
It's almost lunchtime, y'all. We're a little punchy, a little brains elsewhere. So
also recording this days earlier than we normally do. So that is throwing me off a little bit. It's usually a week between recordings, so now it's only been a couple days between recordings, and it's throwing me off.
So let's talk about first getting to Ischia.
It is on an island.
Yes.
It's just for those geographical minded listeners out there.
So yes, so essentially the only way to get there is by boat, and you can get there from Naples or from Sorrento. Naples has a great, fairly new, I think, ferry station. What is that called?
Yeah,
a port station-y thing.
I believe just a port.
A port. But the inside is kind of what I'm thinking of. The inside of that building.
Yes.
That is still called a port?
I think so.
Okay, well, the building is very nice, well organized, and that is where you will get the ferry from Naples. And you can get tickets online, or you can get them there in the building of the port.
I do recommend ahead of time, though.
I do too.
I don't know if the ticket prices change. It's more about making sure you get on the ferry, because at least we've talked with Capri and stuff, they do fill up for sure, and getting them at that day can be a total risk.
And you do have to, so when you get a ticket, you are guaranteed a seat. It's not a situation where you might be standing.
Yes. I honestly don't even know if once they fill out of the seats, I don't know if they would put more people on board, because
I don't think so.
That could just be a nautical disaster.
Yes.
So yes, I apologize.
No, that's good. And there are several different ferry operators, just so you can have a jumping off point. I'll put some in the description, but Ali Lauro is one, Caramar. There are a few others. I'll put them in there because sometimes there are different ones from Sorrento than are from Naples, but you can also use an aggregate like Omio, or Ferry Hopper is another. So, but just as a tip, sometimes, not always, but sometimes the tickets are less expensive straight from the operator's website.
Yes. A lot cheaper sometimes. I don't know how much of it is taxes and fees versus a reseller's fees versus stuff like that, but ours were almost half price. I think we took Ali Lauro, and ours were almost half price going through Ali Lauro compared to through Omio. It was like 20 something per one ticket one way, so almost $40 each round trip to and from there through the website, the Ali Lauro website, versus closer to like $140 round trip for two people through Omio. So that is just something to consider. Same thing with the bags. I apologize if you can hear noise. Our producer is making some noise in the background. We cannot fire her as she is our cat, and she never had a job in the first place. But yeah,
She's great though. She chooses the podcast times to be the most wild. So hopefully it is not bothering anyone. So yes, so that is how you can get to and from Ischia only by ferry.
and on that note, there are not as frequent ferries to Ischia as compared to Capri. I mentioned this solely for those of you who are thinking about a day trip. It is like, I think Capri's really got ferries every 15 minutes from all these different companies going to Capri and back, maybe every half hour. It's a little more infrequent to and from Ischia. However, I also cannot find ferries from other ports in Naples, which isn't that important. But if you look at a map, Ischia and then Procida, and then there's called Monte di Procida or Monte di Procida, which is the westernmost bit of landmass that is still actually attached to like the Italy landmass.
Right, yes.
So it's almost like it's like originally maybe it would have been a ridge, but then got filled in with water, if you will. But it doesn't look like there are boats necessarily from this Monte di Procida to Ischia. It looks like just from Naples, which it's still about an hour on the ferry. So keep that in mind if you are trying to maybe fit in a day trip to Ischia instead of Capri. There are some ferries from Sorrento, but more like 3 a day, not like 15 or 20 a day. So it is going to be more of a one-way trip in that sense.
Yes, I agree.
Because by the time you get to Ischia, you'll have 5 minutes to walk around, have to get the last ferry of the day back to Sorrento.
Yes, which is very much not the vibe of Ischia. If you listen to
no.
our last episode, it's very relaxed. I really highly recommend, if you can, to stay the night or two in Ischia.
Absolutely. So how do you get around Ischia once you're there?
There are several different options. In fact, the ferry is one of the most recommended options. So roughly the geography of the island is you have Ischia, the town of Ischia, on the island of Ischia on the east side, and then Forio that is Forio. And Ischia, by the way, is Ischia.
Yes.
So Ischia on the east side, Forio on the west side, roughly. And that most likely the ferry that you take from, if you're leaving from Naples, will go, first it will stop in Ischia, and then it will go around the island and stop in Forio. So also, if you're wanting to just get around the island, you can take the same ferry or other ferries around to different towns on the island. Likewise, I think Sant'Angelo is a small, very tiny little village, very cute, on the south side of the island. I believe you can take a ferry there. So essentially, if you're looking to get around, one of the most suggested ways when you're going around the perimeter of the island is by taking a ferry.
That makes sense. Okay.
Otherwise, there is a public bus that you can take to different towns that is operated by EAV, and EAV does the
Naples bus as well.
the public transport in Naples.
So when we talk about strikes and stuff, they might also be striking in Ischia the days they strike in Naples.
Yes, but that is very accessible and a great way to be able to travel around the island.
If I may chime in, it is €1.70 per ticket. You can also get a ticket on board. It's a little more expensive, or in a tabaki ahead of time. However, while I often recommend something like Google Maps or Apple Maps to show the bus schedule, it does not seem to show the Ischia bus schedule. It does not seem to ever show that a bus is arriving or departing. So you will have to rely on the more old school bus timetables. You can find them online. I believe they are still in person. Some of the bus stops have the listed timetable. They can be absolutely worthless because sometimes we'll have like a name of a stop that is not the name of the town. It's the name of a street in a town. So it can be borderline worthless, but it is just for those of you who are thinking about like, yeah, I want to take a bus around the island. It seems like, I mean, for literally €1.70, you can go to one side and then take for another €1.70 a bus to the other side or back to the first side.
That might be information that you can ask your hotel about.
Absolutely.
Once you check in, if you say, hey, I'd like to take the public bus, do you have a schedule? They might be able to provide that.
Absolutely.
Likewise, we're not going to get into this too much, but like at our hotel that we stayed at, I imagine this is very similar with others. There will be sort of tour packages through a third
Yes,
party that
yeah.
you can get, so you can take a little not a private. I mean, you could take a private tour or a group tour with strangers, a tour
Make it sound so
around
fun.
the island.
On a bus, usually.
Yes, exactly. So there are other options that aren't just the sort of city bus style. It might be a tour bus with a group that if you'd like that option.
Plus, you can also rent a car, of
Yeah.
course. Not of course, that seems like, yeah, you cannot rent a car on Capri, to be very clear. So, of course, it seems like maybe it's not as obvious as it seems, but you can rent a car on Ischia if you want to see it by car. I would just only recommend quadruple checking with your hotel to make sure that they have space for parking. Otherwise, you're
Yes.
parking it on the street, which could be a paid parking situation, basically.
Very likely a paid parking situation.
Or you have to kind of park it down the block if there's a parking lot somewhere. But yeah, you might get lucky and be able to park it at your hotel. Just it's not, if for those of you who are American listening, where it's an accepted thing to have a parking lot at a hotel, not as common in Italy.
It's less standard.
Less standard, and it actually plays into those when we talk about it's a 3-star, 4-star hotel. One of those, I think, to get to the 3rd star you need to have some kind of parking, or maybe to get to the 4th star you need to have some kind of parking, which is not standard at all. So it's just to ask your hotel if there's a place to park it, and they'll let you know. Sometimes it is still on the street, but it's like for that hotel, and sometimes they have a little lot that is private, which is a little bit nicer if you are trying to not get a rental car dinged up.
You can also, if you're wanting to go by car but you don't want to drive, you can get a taxi or
For sure.
hire a private taxi, essentially, a private car hire. And those companies will often have an option for a tour or just point A to point B. So you can hire a car and a driver for the day to take you around different places on the island, have little stops, get some lunch, things like that. And when we're talking about getting around, I feel like we're talking about it with ease, because while the island is larger than Capri, it really is pretty quickly navigable. You can get from one town to another fairly quickly. It is very easy to go, for instance, from Ischia, the town, to Forio for the day, or have a little trip seeing a couple of different towns around the island in a day.
I agree. It is, yes, for sure. Keep in mind, though, even like if you wanted to walk between Ischia and Forio, it is a 2-hour walk.
Yes.
So it is still you are still reliant on some form of transportation unless you really do want to hike it. Totally possible, by the way, if you are, big into walking and just have not much else better to do. Or if you just really want to, get your 10,000 steps in, you can absolutely do a little walk between the towns. But also keep in mind that there's some elevation changes involved.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a mountainous island. It's a hilly volcanic island.
It is a volcanic island.
Okay,
In
it's an up and
fact,
down island.
you can hike a volcano if you're quite intrepid. We did not do this, but are we okay to get into things to do?
I love it. Let's do
Okay.
it. Now that I know how to get
So-
there and around, yeah.
So we did not hike this. We spent our time shopping and relaxing on this
We
trip.
almost hiked it, and then we thought, better to go shopping.
Yes. A different one, though.
No,
Are
I
you talking
meant-
about the castle?
I was talking about literally anything because I think we also want to go hiking. And then this is the only time I think in a very long time we're like, we should just go shopping instead.
We do. I've said this before. I never pictured myself as a hiking person. I have hiked and walked up elevated areas way more in my adult life than I expected to.
I think if you can trick yourself into it, though, you often go like unprepared, not in a bad way, but like I'm in flip flops and I have my tote bag and I have but that's how like you get tricked into walking up a mountain. I think it's when you have your walking shoes on and you're ready for it. You're like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. People who hike are like, Darcy, don't wear flip flops on a hike.
Yeah.
I know.
But then it's like you can trick
More
yourself
often
into
it's Tevas. I'll have a water bottle with
Yes,
me. I
yes.
usually have a water bottle when we're out for the day. And Tevas, it's a little better than nothing and flip flops.
This is not the Italy hike podcast.
No, I don't recommend it. You should go prepared. So if you want to go prepared and you're a relatively intrepid hiker, it seems that the path is not terribly difficult, but it is steep.
Okay.
Up to Monte Epomeo. That is relatively in the center of the island. And I've only seen pictures, but you can get a stunning view out onto the Mediterranean, the Tyrrhenian Sea, and the island from there.
That is lovely. That is good to know.
Yeah. If you don't want to go hiking, but you do want to see, shall we talk about something elevated or something naturey as a
That
segue?
let's keep going nature, I feel like.
Okay. So if you want to see more nature things around the island, you can also pop on over to the Giardini La Mortella. That is the Mortella Gardens. These are botanical gardens. They're not necessarily, indigenous plants to, what's the word that you like? That when a plant is from somewhere?
Native? No.
No, there's another word.
Not indigenous and not native?
Who knows? These plants aren't all from from Italy. It is a full-on botanical garden, so they have different sections with plants from all over the world.
It starts with an I, though, the one I like to use.
I think so.
I'm like, no, it's indigenous. I'm like,
It
wait, no.
sounds like eponymous, but it's not.
Yeah.
So otherwise, if you don't want to see the gardens, if you're looking for also something that is naturey, but you want to relax, like we said in the last episode, there are lots of thermal baths. So
Tons.
there are more often than not, they're going to be a private situation.
Okay.
Meaning like
Makes sense.
it's kind of like a water park. Not exactly. It's not as crazy as a water park. It's just to say that a lot of these places will be a private business with many pools. So you have lots of options. You probably want to spend, you could do a half day ticket or a full day ticket to just relax in some pools and sometimes they'll have like little artificial waterfalls, things like that. I think the most sort of famous one on the island, although there are tons, there are so many. I think the most famous one is going to be the Poseidon Terme, the thermal baths of Poseidon. There are also a few, these are harder to find, but there are a few gratis libero, what is it called? Free to use natural thermal springs. And one is, let me check my notes. That is Terme Fumarole. That is Fumarole.
Okay.
And that is one of the free, just natural thermal areas. I will say, do your research if you can on those, if you'd like to go somewhere that is free, because sometimes they're thermal vents. It's not necessarily a natural pool that is sort of open and tepid. Sometimes it really is incredibly hot vents that just come shooting out of the earth around rocks. And that can mean that the rocks on the beaches around there can be incredibly hot. And there are sometimes, warnings about not being there barefoot.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that.
I was also going to say that some of these thermal baths, these pools, some are filtered. So it's just really hot water that is still mineral rich but fairly clear, and some are completely unfiltered, so you do get covered in like a clay, like we were talking about in the last episode, that the thermal baths at the hotel we were at were entirely unfiltered, so you are kind of in this like rusty, muddy looking water, and you're kind of getting covered in silt, and it's very hot, and it's just piped straight out of a thermal spring somewhere. But that's mostly as a warning for those of you planning on this, to consider not bringing maybe like your nicest bathing suit if you're going to go to something unfiltered, or your newest one, or a white one.
Right. You wear a dark colored bathing suit.
It will almost certainly get stained, as will your nails, as we both found out. That, like, your skin obviously gets stained, but fingernails and toenails also get stained. So just keep that in mind if you are going to be the natural ones, that when you come out, you might be going, why are all my nails yellow to orange color?
Yeah.
It is just because iron, I guess.
Iron.
I don't know why I pronounced it like
That was
that,
great.
but you're welcome.
So there are lots of different thermal spas, thermal baths all over the island because they are naturally occurring. The Poseidon thermal baths have like 20 different pools, and it seems that all of theirs are filtered, which I think you said, but there are so many to choose from, ones that have unfiltered baths, fewer pools, more pools, different things like that, different levels of sort of luxury, and you should be able to, with most of them, choose a half day or a full day option. There's lots of different choices.
And as a one last note, I first imagined it as natural rock pools. These are more like just a standard swimming pool, or a hot tub, or a jacuzzi. I don't know why I'm getting southern, jacuzzi. Because koozie. That's the things that keep the beers cold.
Yeah.
I've only ever heard that in a southern accent. I don't think I've ever heard anyone not from the South saying koozie. So that is why, that's basically just to keep in mind, it's just like, oh, it's a hot tub at the pool is what it looks like, especially when it's filtered. When it's unfiltered, it looks very much the same, just brown. Like I mentioned in the last episode that there were these 2 jacuzzis on the roof of our hotel, but they are just literally jacuzzis piping in this
Unfiltered thermal
rusty
iron-rich
looking water.
Yes.
So it's not like, oh, I'm sitting in this like crazy rock cavern and there's a hot spring. It's very much more like, yeah, not that.
The water is natural. The pools are not.
Exactly.
If you want to see some other fun things around the island, you can see Castello Aragonese. Aragon,
Yeah.
sort of. Yeah, Aragonese is how it looks. And that is a beautiful castle in the area of Porto di Ischia, right? So like the Ischia, the town of Ischia on the island of Ischia. It's a beautiful castle up on a hill. It kind of juts up, a mountainish hill that juts
Another
up out
island,
of the water.
if you will.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely beautiful.
It's gorgeous. It's privately owned, but open all year round. I think there's a hotel on the island, a couple restaurants on the island. You can walk around it. Beautiful views, both of Ischia and of the Gulf of Naples. And there's a little stone bridge connecting, because it's technically on a different island. There's a little stone bridge connecting the two, which I think is open year round as well, even in like stormy weather. It's not like half underwater or anything, the bridge. I think it's pretty high up there. But it's great. It's also a place that we did not walk to because we saw it and we thought, that's beautiful. And this is where the shopping ends, so we're just going to turn around and go back up the shopping streets.
We had limited time. It was a shopping and spa trip, which is something that we almost never get to do.
We literally, we went both to Florence, everywhere we go. It's just more about seeing the things, trying to make notes, trying to obviously enjoy ourselves.
Going on hikes.
Going on hikes, for whatever reason. I think because we assume that some of y'all want to go on hikes, so we want to do the hike first to make sure it's hikeable, and then eating.
You can't blame it on them, Nathaniel. You love hiking. You love a long walk.
I think I like a long walk. As soon as it starts going uphill, I start losing motivation so quickly. Or downhill. I don't like uphills or downhills. I like flat, long walks. Mm-hmm. Put me in Oklahoma, I'd be very happy.
But once I get halfway up the sort of incline of whatever we're doing, once I've committed to it, I have to keep going. Yeah. So I feel like you usually initiate the climb and then I push us to the top.
I like that. That's good.
And that's how we work together. So
it's one of those like inspirational podcasts.
Yeah. So back to the castle. You can also take a tour of the castle, and I think it's about 15 euros per person. I'm not exactly sure on that, but it really does seem like a lovely, interesting place, especially if you're into history. A really cool place to visit.
Yeah, it's been slowly basically also being renovated. That's part of the private family that owns it. They are also in charge of renovating it. I mean, I say in charge, in like the same family that owns it, I think bought it in the early 1900s with the plan to renovate it because the British bombed it to smithereens in the 1800s, just bombarded the island. So everything was completely dilapidated, falling apart, giant holes in it. So it's slowly being rebuilt, vines being cleared off of things like that. But it used to be a pretty thriving city, basically, before Ischia specifically was inhabited. That was, I think, like 2,000 people living there at one point.
On that little island?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was much more easily defensible than the actual island itself.
Fascinating.
But it's been also one of the more longer inhabited islands in that area, if that makes sense. Like, it was inhabited before Ischia was inhabited, because, again, easier to defend. And you could defend apparently the waters from there. They had a little tower, and they would attack ships if need be.
Wow.
For a little history lesson for y'all.
That's really neat. So since we're, in my mind, I'm standing on the little beach that we were standing on when we saw that castle. I mean, you can see the castle from lots of different parts of the town of Ischia, but we were headed that way and we stopped at a little beach and I said, let's go back to shopping.
And what a day that was.
So I'm thinking about the beaches in the town of Ischia and then around the island.
Yeah.
It is easy to assume that they are all pristine, crystal clear beaches. Ischia certainly has some beautiful beaches, and of course we've been recommending the thermal baths, but not every beach is equal to another.
Yes.
I would say that the beaches in Ischia, the town, and of course it's early in the season, they might get tidied up. They were not ideal for swimming necessarily. And I think particularly in the high season, a lot of boats park around that area in the town of Ischia and Ischia Porto, the port of Ischia. There is one beach that a lot of people seem to recommend. We have not been there yet. We are going back to Ischia someday, hopefully soon, and we will report back. But the beach that a lot of people seem to really enjoy is Maronti, and that is a large, relatively flat stretch of beach, a long, sandy-looking area on the south side of the island.
Which is interesting because a lot of the ferries do go along the north side, because Forio and Ischia, the port of Ischia, are both fairly north. So they'll kind of do this little lap on the north and not really go on the south part. I mean, there's still boat traffic and stuff down there, but you don't necessarily see as many large, massive ferries. So it's a little bit more open. It's also kind of you have a bit of a view of Capri, a bit of a view of the Gulf, but a lot of it is open ocean.
Yes.
So it's a little bit nicer. It's kind of like, almost swimming on the very edge, sort of like the other side of Capri. When you're swimming there, it's like there's nothing. There's just openness.
Exactly.
So it's a little bit like that.
Exactly. And also thinking about our time in the town of Ischia, shopping. I keep saying shopping. It really was so fun.
I don't think we're bragging, by the way. We've never been shopping before, so it was just so nice to go shopping.
I didn't necessarily put it anywhere in the notes to say specifically, so it just keeps popping up in my mind because we would pop into a little shop here, pop into a little shop there. I just want to say that if that is something that you're interested in doing, if that is a part of the way you vacation, Ischia, like I have said before, has really affordable things to buy. A lot of things are made there. I will put the link to the woman who made the sandals that I bought, which are wonderful and amazing. I love them so much. We'll put the link to her shop. Lots of jewelry shops, clothing shops, ceramics shops. So the ceramics, the jewelry, the shoes, a lot of those are made on the island in the shop, potentially where you're going to be.
Yeah.
You got some gin for your mom.
Gin, I did. I was like, I don't think I got her gin. Yeah, I did.
And
it's also made there.
That same shop has it's distilled after dinner drink made from arugula.
Yes, it is not distilled, but it is an after dinner drink made from arugula.
There we go.
I think it's just soaked.
Ah, okay.
But it's a digestivo made. It's called a rucolino, and it's cute. They're like kind of famous. I mean, it's literally just them making it from arugula, and it's a few restaurants in Naples has it, which is the only reason we heard about it. We had it actually in a restaurant in Naples, but it's a lot of local production stuff in Ischia. So if you are interested in just sort of shopping, but mostly in the sense of buying souvenirs or buying gifts for people that you feel comfortable knowing that it was made by hand or made locally.
It's things that are unique that you honestly cannot get anywhere else.
Yes, that's something we noticed. We obviously got tons of Christmas gifts. 8 months early. Felt good about that one. There's not the mid-December rush to get some gifts. But no, that was, I think, the thing. It's so much of it felt like well made there for tourists, obviously, but and for people who live there. But it was sort of contributing to the local economy. We talk about that a lot. It didn't feel like a mass-produced thing. It felt like somebody was literally just running a shop, and so it felt nice to be able to support them.
Exactly. And like we said, I think particularly in our last episode, is that a lot of the tourists who were there are Italians. So while certainly it was mostly tourists shopping in these shops in the little downtown of Ischia, it was Italians as well. It wasn't just, it wasn't at all, these are mass-produced items which are not made in Italy specifically to sort of trick tourists. These are well-made local goods that are just unique and really cool, so everybody wants to buy them.
It is very much a good place to, if you're planning on shopping, I feel like we said shopping a lot, it is a good place to do it. If you're going to Rome, Naples, Capri, Sorrento, Positano, and then you're like, I'll stop in Ischia as well, it is a good place to do it because I feel more comfortable there knowing that it's made there, unlike Sorrento, Capri, Positano, Amalfi, where there's definitely some local production, but a lot of it felt questionable at best. Even a lot of the clothing stores I know Positano had tons of clothing stores, but it was certainly the type of store where they choose a style and then have their label attached to it, not necessarily make the clothes themselves. And they could also still be made in Italy, but made at a larger distributor who then just will attach people's labels to it. So I did feel pretty comfortable about that. One small note I just wanted to mention, because I looked it up while we were doing this podcast, is the hike up to the volcano. You do actually have to pass alongside, if not necessarily kind of through a restaurant, through like the eating area of a restaurant. It's got almost like 5-star review, this volcano on Google Maps. It's hilarious.
The volcano itself does.
Yeah.
Amazing.
People are like, it's fantastic. It's also only a 300-meter walk up, which from where the bus leaves you, which is not bad. It's about 900 feet, so genuinely not a bad walk.
Okay.
Given the fact
Just steep.
it's steep, but it doesn't look super like straight up necessarily,
Okay.
except maybe towards the end, because there is a restaurant beyond where the bus leaves you. So there's a restaurant you have to walk to anyway. But there are a number of people in the reviews warning that when you get to the restaurant, don't turn around. You have not gone the wrong way. Keep going, and you'll get to the top of the volcano. But that just seemed kind of cool, like to kind of build up an appetite and then go back for lunch potentially if it's a good restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are lots of this is something that you might find more through your hotel, but there are sort of other adventure activities.
Yes,
I think
for
especially if you're coming with kids or a family and you want to do like a team building, family building adventure, there are options for doing, sort of fun naturey things like that.
That is like the start of a sitcom, isn't
Yep.
it? Family in Ischia doing team building exercises. It is, on that note, I will say, as like my own final thought, is that there's definitely an energy that Ischia has been so long known for, the sort of spas and partly the beaches and certain things like that, that almost there's like a sense they're trying to slightly not revamp it, but maybe see if there's another direction they could also pursue. So we did kind of get the sense that there's a lot of ads for a lot of different things, or not ads in a bad way, but just like, as you mentioned, like go to this adventure thing, go ziplining, go hiking, go nature, whatever. There's a lot of this, like, what is our identity? Because I think Capri is very, very clearly, it's beautiful and there's shopping. What else do you need? So I
Right.
think Ischia is beautiful and there is shopping, but I think they're like, instead of trying to compete, what if we had like this other thing you could come here for? So I'd be curious to know, like, I want to go back with a rental car, especially, and explore.
Yes.
I'd be curious to know if there's vineyards on the island. I'd be curious to know
There
what
are
kind
a few. There are a few vineyards where you can also do a wine tasting.
Did not know this. This is
Yes.
good to know.
And that is whenever we talked about. I wouldn't suggest obviously doing a wine tasting with a rental car.
100% not. That's a great point. Forgot about that.
It could be a great option for you to get a taxi. There is one certainly that is within a quick taxi ride from the town of Ischia itself, a vineyard where you can do a wine tasting. Others are a little bit more into nature, but you can hire a car for the day with a driver or for a few hours, something like that, to go do a wine tasting.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, do not drink and drive in Italy or anywhere, but man, like, don't drink and then drive, because then there's a very low tolerance in Italy.
Yeah.
So I think that's Ischia.
Yeah.
For at least for this episode.
Yeah, exactly. And we do hope to go back. And like I said, so we'll bring y'all all more information after we visit it again. But it really is a weird, wonderful, step back in time, relaxed, interesting place.
Yeah. For the first impressions sort of episodes, which I feel like is what this episode and Wednesday was, definitely blew me away. Is basically the best way I can put it.
And one final note that we briefly mentioned, I think, in the last episode, much like Capri, this is very much an on-season, off-season town in terms of tourism.
Yes.
Of course, people live there year-round, but the adventure things, the shopping, a lot of things are only open and available during the season. So I would say...
like April to November usually.
Exactly.
That's actually something we did talk to people about. It does turn into a ghost town after November, before April. So if you are thinking about going in like January, February for just like a kind of a super cheap getaway, the spa type thing will still very much be available. That's year round. People will go there year round for that, but I would not rely on it there being anything else happening necessarily.
Yes, exactly. And like Nathaniel said, just to reiterate, things will close in the afternoon, traditional Italy style, not tourist town style. So often shops and things will be closed from 1:30 to 4:30. Sometimes even gelato shops and cafes occasionally won't be open during that afternoon period. So just keep that in mind.
Especially if you're going for a day trip, keep that in mind.
Yes, absolutely.
And this has been Ischia.
This has been Ischia. It's beautiful. If you're able, we highly recommend you visit.
Thank you all so much for listening.
Thanks for listening. Tanti abbracci.